Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Campfire Stories. Jay Smiley here, your tour guide into the strange, the unknown, the terrifying. Tonight's story is a submission from a member of the Grimm Society. Their name is Daniel. The Mermaid Ponds. Have you ever had a bad feeling and thought, maybe I shouldn't have ignored the warning signs? This is a warning to anyone that goes to the Mermaid Ponds overnight. The truth about what happened to my friends needs to be told. I was around 20 years old at the time of the incident. Brian was my best friend, and he had so many stories to tell me about his trips to exotic locations. He even met his girlfriend while on a sailing trip to Tahiti. Brian was always a fish out of water, which is why he always felt at home around the sea. And Jen was no different. They met on a dive expedition and instantly fell in love, or so Brian claims. They were one of those perfect couples, head over heels in love with one another, and seemed to share all of the same interests, especially their love for the ocean. They always bragged about how much fun the rest of the world could be. I have to admit, I was a bit jealous. I had never left home really. All I did was work and daydream about a vacation. So when Brian told me that they were both planning a trip to the Hawaiian Islands, the timing was perfect. I had saved up just enough money and was so excited to finally be able to go on one of their great adventures. It's about time, Brian told me, as we all planned for the adventure. When we landed, I was filled with a sense of wonder. Hawaii was everything I always thought it could be. As we flew over the lush rainforest and immaculate lava rock coastline, I couldn't help but imagine where we would start or what kind of adventures we might have. I wish I could feel that again, I really do, but I never will, not after what happened to them. We were planning to stay for a week, but plans never do quite work out the way you think they will. The first few days we explored, we traveled all over the island and saw so many amazing things. I'll never forget the rainforest trail we took the first day. The forest was so full of life, and so were Brian and Jen. The trail ended at a waterfall. We swam for hours. We had so much fun that we lost track of time and had to navigate the jungle in the moonlight. Once the sun went down, Brian couldn't help but joke about some of the stories he had found out about while planning the trip. He was going on and on about ghostly Hawaiian warriors that would come out at night, and that the Hawaiian gods didn't like it when visitors trespassed on their sacred land. Then he told the story about mermaids luring people to their deaths with their sweet songs. That was his favorite. I wish we would have listened. I wish we would have believed. After the second day of fun, I saw that Brian and Jen seemed a bit disappointed. I was having so much fun that I didn't realize that they were both pretty much sick of seeing all the popular touristy sites. They were ready for an adventure and hated the idea of staying at that hotel for the rest of the trip. So they decided that camping on the coastline would be much more enjoyable. But after getting the camping gear, Brian was having a lot of trouble finding a good place for us to camp. He got so frustrated and told me that all of the good places he wanted to go weren't going to work out, that the state absolutely didn't allow camping at most locations. I really didn't like the idea of camping illegally and had already paid for a night at the hotel, so I told them that I would spend one more night until they figured out where we were going to go camp. That next morning, I got a call from Brian. He was telling me that he found the perfect spot. He had found it by talking to some of the locals about our problems. Brian thought he was so smart as he talked to me. The locals said that we could actually camp anywhere we wanted to, really, as long as we brought a fishing pole with us. All we had to do is say that we were fishing. Apparently, that made it legal. He laughed when he told me that we were going to spend the night at the Mermaid Ponds, and talked about how the locals told him that no one ever goes there overnight. He insisted that we had to camp there, that no one would bother us, and joked that he really wanted to see a mermaid. So we agreed. I really wish we would have found somewhere else, anywhere else, but we didn't. When we got there, it was amazing. We even had to climb down a lava rock trail to get to the ponds. They were beautiful, deep tide pools with crystal clear water that were sprawled throughout the coastline, and they were enormous. We spent the day snorkeling and setting up camp and looking for mermaids until the tide rose up. Then we relaxed and watched as most of the tide pools disappeared under the water. But as the sun was about to set, we realized that we forgot to get any food for the night. So I told them both that I would go and get some supplies and that I would be right back. That's the last thing I ever said to them. I'll be right back. I came back all right. And when I did, the sound that I heard will be burned into my head forever. The sound filled the air. It was beautiful and horrible at the same time. Like a choir of angels singing out. It was beckoning me to come closer. I almost got lost in my head. All I could think of was that beautiful song. But as I started to get closer, that's when I heard him. It was Brian. He was screaming out Jen's name at the top of his lungs. He was yelling out so loud, screaming out for Jen. No, Jen, don't go in the water! When I heard this, I ran as fast as I could, trying desperately to get to the camp. The closer I got, the louder Brian and Jen's screaming became, and that sweet sound started to turn evil. It now sounded like horrible, high-pitched wailing, and it was surrounding Brian and Jen. I could see them splashing all over and hear them struggling in the water. Jen was screaming out for help. Then her screams were cut off. Brian was crying out her name over and over again, but that evil wailing was getting louder and louder. I was yelling out for them, but as I got to the bottom of the lava rock, I tripped. And as I was falling, I could clearly see Brian. He looked right at me with horror and sadness in his eyes. And those hands came up from the water. They grabbed onto him and pulled him under. That's the last thing I saw before the lava rock hit my head and everything went black. When I woke, I was hoping so badly, praying that it was all a bad dream, but it wasn't. That was the last time I ever saw Brian or Jen again. They were gone, taken. When I reported what had happened to the police, I didn't know what to say. I knew if I told them the truth that they would never believe me. So I lied. I made up a story. I told them that my friends were attacked by sharks. I wish I could take it back. If only I had enough courage to tell the truth. But I didn't. That decision will haunt me for the rest of my life.
Thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button so you won't miss out on more campfire stories. And tune in next time. We upload 2 times a week every week. And if you have a story that you would like to submit for a future episode, make sure to email it to us at thebrothersgrimm@gmail.com. Until next time, stay smiley, everyone.